Hey everybody, I'm flying solo today. Kaylina's on a little home vacation, and so I'm going to do my best to film this on my own. Today we're just going to make a simple belt. I realized in all this time we haven't really walked through how to just make a really simple belt. They're great projects, very useful, so we're going to get into it. We're going to start out with, this is just a 1/2 inch strip of about 12 ounce leather, 10-12 ounce leather. You can use a draw gauge to cut it. That's what I used. These are fantastic. I've had this one for like 15 years. It's just, super inexpensive. They work great. You can also just order strips of leather cut down to however wide you want. This is 1.5 inches, and I have otherwise just a solid brass 1.5 inch roller buckle, and I have 2 Chicago screws, male and female. And so the first thing we need to do is get this buckle attached to the belt. So what I have here is a little belt template that I made. Now this is a slot punch for our buckle, and the way that this is going to go together, imagine there's a belt attached here. We're going to slide this in. We're going to put our Chicago screws through here and through here, and we need a keeper to go in the middle so that our tail, our belt tail, is held tight to the belt. But the first thing we need to do is we need to mark this out on the top end of our belt. Now, for measurements, I'll just hold a ruler up here. I have 1.25 inches between the holes, and then I have 1 inch between the hole and the slot punch, and then the slot punch is 1 inch. So I know there are a bunch of places that sell these, but you can really, they're super easy to make on your own as well. So we're going to use this, and I'm going to get my belt blank, I guess you could call it. And all I'm going to do is trace out these markings onto the belt blank. Now, before we punch these holes out, if you're using a thicker leather like this, this is going to be really thick when you fold it over. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use a French edger, and you can use a pull skiver too. I just don't have one. I'm just going to use a French edger. I'm going to sharpen it up a little bit. Actually, we'll use this one. And I'm going to take down a little of that bulk that's going to be in the folded part of the belt. And what that'll do is it'll just make it lay a little more smoothly. And so I'm going to flip my belt over, and I'm going to just use my guide again to sort of make a mark. And the reason I have this cut, it's about 1/4 inch, is because I know that this is where, if I skive down from here, the tail of the belt on the back will overlap this. Now once you have this thinned out, we're going to punch our holes. Now I like to thin it out first because once you get holes in this, it's going to make it really floppy, and especially if you're using a French edger, which I would use like a pull skiver if you're going to be doing a lot of belts. I got this nice and smooth, but that's how we usually do it. Ours is just taken apart right now because I was sharpening the blade. And I wanted to show you how to do it just with hand tools. You can also probably just sand this down like on a belt sander or something, just this part of it. But, whatever way works. So now we need to punch our holes and our curve. Now you can cut this curve by hand. I'm just going to use a 1.5 inch round strap end punch and a fairly heavy mallet. And we're just going to line up our marks here. And there we go. There's our first curved punch, and then I'm going to go in with just my normal punches here. And we're going to go through, and I'm going to show you how to do this if you don't have a slot punch. So this is a slot punch. This would be to punch out our center section for our buckle. But if you don't have one of these, super easy way to do it without one. So I'm just going to go down, and first I'm going to punch our 4 holes for our Chicago screws. Then, instead of punching this whole slot punch, if you don't have a slot punch, all you're gonna do is use that same hole punch and punch a hole at either end of the slot punch of the slot that you need to cut out. Then we just cut out the middle using our straight edge, and we have a perfect slot for our buckle. So now we need to make our belt keeper, and the belt keeper is going to be the loop on the belt that goes in between our two Chicago screws that holds the tail of our belt in place. So the way that I do this is I just have a piece of 5-ounce leather, and I'm going to use the lines on my cutting board, as always, to cut. We're going to go with a 1/2 inch. Maybe we'll do 3. We'll go a little over a 1/2 inch wide strip for a keeper. And these are, you can do these tons of different ways. You can skive them down. I'm just going to show you how to butt them up and just stitch them. We use brass staples in ours. I'll show you what those look like as well. To size this, because everybody's belt is going to be a different thickness, all I would recommend, take your belt, fold it in half so you know this will be your belt body and this will be your belt tail, and just wrap your leather around like this. There we go. And then wrap it around here, and then get your scratch awl, and all you gotta do, make a little mark where they butt up. And we're just gonna chop this right here. And then this will be your belt keeper. So now to get this stitched up, I'm going to use my 2-prong stitching chisel from Weaver. And I'm just going to mark 2 holes on either side like this. And I'm just going to use these for spacing. I'm not going to go, you can punch them all the way through. But since we're going to be doing like kind of a butt joint type thing, I'm just going to use my scratch awl, and I'm going to poke these holes through like this. And here are your keeper options. So when you punch the 2 holes, this is how I like to stitch it up, but you can also get more fancy with it. And if you can kind of see here, what I've done is I've skived down the ends of this, so you can see it's the same thickness all the way through, but they overlap and they're glued. And then your other option, if you want to do a butt joint, you can use a brass staple like this, and these hold really, really well. These are good for if you're making a ton of belts. It just takes out like 10 or 15 minutes of labor. So if you're trying to make affordable belts, these last forever. I have one on my belt that I've worn for 8 years and no issues at all. So we're going to use this one that we showed you how to make, and now we're going to put the top of the belt together. So we have 2 sets of Chicago screws, we have our keeper, we have our buckle, and we have our belt all laid out, thinned out, we're ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to slide the keeper on, and that's going to go in between the 2 Chicago screws. Then we're going to take our buckle and we're going to put that through our slot punch, and that'll slide right in like that. And if you're using thick leather, you got to kind of bend it in there. I'm going to take one of my Chicago screws. I like to start at the buckle first, and all we're going to do is just screw these together. Let's see if I can get just like that. There we go. So you see we have 1 Chicago screw. Oh, you're out of focus there. Perils of filming alone. There we go. Okay. Then we're going to take our keeper and we're going to slide it into that little space. See? And now it's starting to really look like a full belt. Then all that's left is to put our 2nd Chicago screw into our 2nd hole. There we go. And we're just gonna screw that down. And I'm gonna leave these finger tight for the video. But basically what you want to do is you want to make sure there's like Loctite or something in here because these can come undone. And you see how this is kind of loose? That's because the pattern that I used is for this little pattern here. This is for a different thickness of belt. I would want to move this up a little bit to prevent this jiggle, okay? So then the next step is we have to size this belt. And you can size it however you want. I'm just going to size it to the size I need for the person I'm making this for, and then I'm going to show you, we have another one of these little templates, and we're just going to mark this out, punch it, and we'll be done. I have pretty much all the tools I'm going to need here. I've marked my center hole. This is the size that I want the belt to be. Then on my little template here made out of leather, this is my center hole, and these are 1 inch apart. And then my tail is 3.5 inches long from the last hole. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my center hole. I have my mark that I made with my scratch awl. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to take my scratch awl. I'm going to trace the point, and we'll use this punch to punch this out. And then I'm just going to go in with my punch. This is a 3/16 of an inch punch. And I'm going to mark all the belt holes. And when I pull this up, there we go. We have, some of them are a little light, but that's okay. We can just go through. And now it's the same as before. We're going to go through, I'm going to use this, I think it's called an English point belt end, the strap end punch. I'm going to get my tail punched out, and I'm just going to punch these 5 holes. And here we go. Here's our belt, and it's done. We have our nice tail here with our 5 different size holes, our nice pointed end, and you can burnish this up. I had burnished this whole thing before. You guys have seen me burnish a bunch of times. You don't have to though. And then all we do, we slide the tail in. This goes in the keeper, and there, we're all done. Nice simple belt. And you can hear, once it's on, that shake if you do size things a little bit weird or you want to use just one template for different size stuff. You're not going to get that shake once someone's wearing it, but you definitely can go a little bit closer on this this closure here. So I hope you guys like this. I can't believe that we've never made a belt before, but give it a go. They're super simple. They're obviously very useful. I wear, this is the exact same style belt that I've had for, the one I'm wearing now is 8 years old, and it's still going strong. And we'll see you in the next one.